Welcome back to Zestful Lessons, where we talk about energy work and channeling. I just released a special new course where it teaches people how to channel and connect with their higher self from my perspective and how I've been able to do that. So that way people can grow and ascend in the ways that they're supposed to be on their highest timeline. This is especially made for starseeds and light workers. If you're interested in finding out more about how to channel and be able to share those experiences with others so you can start mentoring and whatnot, go to my link in my bio. It's to my website and it's $20 and it will teach you from my perspective how I've been able to channel.
I'm here with Alexis from Zestful Lessons, and I found her on Facebook. I can't remember what group because I'm in a few different ones. But I posted something about dragons and you were very excited. And I was like, yay, a dragon person. And we started talking. And yeah, here we are.
Yes. I think it was like in a starseed group or something. I'm not even sure anymore. I just was like, ooh, I need to get a podcast with this lady because it's not that there's not a lot of information out there. It's just there's a lot of pieces. And also, I feel like everybody's having a little bit different experiences. But this is an energy that is coming forward very recently. It's always been there, but definitely it's starting to be activated in a lot of souls right now. And so people that have been on an ascension journey for a while, have been able to come forward with really interesting pieces of information, and we're all kind of just figuring out this together. So
yeah, it's super interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading your magazines on your website. What was the website's name again?
Well, it's the magazine is called Activate Your Telephone Line to Source. And came up with that a few years ago because I have a free video course and I titled that Activate Your Telephone Line to Source. And I'm like, okay, I want to put a magazine together and bring all this information together, like just channeled information, but also tarot readings, astrology, forecasts, all kinds of stuff. And then the dragon information that I was receiving. And I'm thinking, what is a good name? And then they're like my guides, like, just activate your telephone. You have a good name, activate your telephone line to source. I'm like, but that's already the name of the course. And they're like, doesn't matter. Just use that name. I'm like, okay.
So, yes. I was reading, what was it? March, April, and May. And oh my goodness, this is such the magazine just resonated so deeply with me. And I loved how I could see how much work goes into this because of how many people's perspectives you have in there and how much activations. Just reading through the articles, I was like being really activated. I only read the dragon part because I didn't have enough time because they are very informational magazines. But I was just like, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to have an amazing meditation tonight with all these activations. Yeah. Oh Lord, hold on tight with the shadow work that comes with that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I felt like I was putting all this information. I'm doing it with my husband. And then we were like, yeah, okay, we're going to make this magazine, little side project. And then all these other people started getting interested, like friends of mine. Hey, do you need somebody to channel animals? I have an animal communicator. Do you need somebody to give you a tarot forecast or astrology? Hey, can I channel the elementals for you every month? I'm like, okay. And then like now I have this magazine with like a dozen different contributors that are all contributing. And I feel like it's this group thing. It's like a little mystery school in a magazine.
Yes. Yeah. I loved it. It was like community from all over the world. It really resonated with me. And by the way, for anybody listening out there, if you want to learn how to channel, I do have a course right now that's out that gives, from my perspective, how you can start channeling and learning how to listen into your higher guidance and your higher self. putting that aside, when I was reading your magazine, well, right before I started reading it, the first thing that came up was what's called Dragon Code. Literally, I just wrote that on top, and I was like, what does that even mean? Dragon Code, you know? But I'm going to read a little bit of what came through, because we both know what you wrote on your, I know the viewers don't, so we can kind of go over that. But so basically, before I started reading her magazine, this is what came through. Since the beginning of your soul creation, there is a dragon that is created before you, before you, specifically for your soul. So basically, they were saying that this dragon, time is very different for dragons than it is for humans. We are created equally as one, and time really doesn't exist. But I guess from a human perspective, they just age much differently. They take longer to age. They're just older in that type of sense. So basically, there is a dragon specifically created for your soul, and this gets a little bit deeper. The dragon, the soul's frequencies, geometric patterns, personality, starseed essence, in which universe you are created from, and or star essence you're created from, that the dragon matches. Obviously, the dragon is its own being within itself, but it also has to match. Kind of like when a soul comes into a human body, it has to be able to hold a certain frequency, or the body is not going to be able to function correctly. It may have a lot of illnesses and whatnot, right? And you'll still see this still today with really high frequency souls having people with extreme body illnesses and stuff, because it's such a high frequency for the body to handle. But anyways, these dragons have to have somewhat of a soul coding match, so that way it's not either overwhelming for the human, or so that way also that the dragon can get correct ascension, that it just works together on the mission. Anyways, dragons are not as you imagined. They're not pure destruction, chaos, and fear as they are seen in the films. Each one of us has different purposes, much like humans. Before a human is born, its soul comes into agreement in a very complicated coding way. It's not complicated why we're souls, but it's kind of complicated for human if you're not understanding what light language is and how it works on the other side. With their guidance. And also dragons agree, kind of almost like a contract in a sense, but not exactly, to work with that specific human based off their missions and purposes. So basically they also have free will, much like we do, to be able to work with us or not work with us. However, they are a very good coding match to us. Let's see. Okay, so DNA coding frequency match and various other reasons. Okay, so they also could be matched with us for various other reasons too. It's important to match dragons to the right soul, so this way the soul and the dragon can ascend through one another. As you upgrade, I put upgrades, I didn't know, as you ascend, so does your dragon. Both of the light codings changes, which activates soul DNA coding further, in which the human body can handle. So that's the first piece that I actually wrote for before they become human, because in your magazine, kind of the next step was when you are in a lifetime and about to meet your dragon again. I mean, you could have met them in the past, but before you meet them again in this lifetime and in that remembrance, I kind of, for some reason, got the message of when they were actually like, their souls were like starting to be created and stuff, you know, what that perspective may look like. So I just wanted everybody to know that both the dragons and you have that free will to work with one another. And it's like an unconditionally loving way of a team coming together and working together. So
yeah, it's like perfectly put into words, but into different words that mean the same thing, kind of like what I've been receiving. It's very interesting because I have like my little notes here, and basically what they were saying, I literally put it in bold font. It says, like humans and dragons are allies, that we're basically allies. We're here, we chose to be together as allies. And the way I saw it, the way they even showed it to me yesterday, I was talking to a friend about this, that they come because we are so much light, like the old souls, the ones that are here with this spiritual mission activated to really come and do spiritual work and to transmute, help up to really shift this old energy, to shift out of this 3D and to help ascend the planet. They have these dragons with them, and because we are so bright, we are this big light, like this giant flashlight walking around, and that's going to attract a whole bunch of things that are attracted to this flashlight. So the dragons are like this amplifier of the light, and at the same time they are like this protection shield that's going to make sure that we can efficiently do our work. And they're at the same time very grounding and also very connected to these higher realms, and that that we're supposed to really trust them and lean on them for support. And we have the free will to say, oh, I don't want to do this. But the mission is, of course, when you have a dragon guide to work with them, and they would love, they're like super excited to get started. And that's where their free will comes in, of course, where they see like, oh yeah, this person is really ready to go. Oh, I want to make sure that they know that I'm here to work with them, because it's like you were created when you go all the way back to source, or like wherever your energy, your pure energy, it's like this perfectly compatible combination. And then it's like a yin and yang symbol, and it fits together.
I was just about to get into that.
Yeah.
That is just about what I was going to jump into here. For something in that whole section, the first part of your transmission in the March magazine, I talked about yin and yang. And for some reason, when I started reading that, I started channeling when you talked about yin and yang, because dragons have the ability to be both and understand both, they have been able to sustain themselves through Gaia's frequency shifts as well as humans. Now, I'm also going to throw in a little bit that planetary stuff here with Gaia, but we'll go back to the human thing in just a second. But for some reason, Gaia loves for me to speak on her behalf, so this got thrown in here. There are some dragons specifically made for balancing and working alongside Gaia's soul light codes. So not only do humans get the free will and the choice and the matching light codes, so does our planet and planets in general. And suns and solar systems, like it's like a whole thing. So they're like following along Gaia's soul, light codes, and mission. For the most part, the dragons that work with Gaia's energy and mission, they don't really have as much interest in humans, even though they understand that humans do 100% affect Gaia, and we're made up of her, but they're really more focused on her specific mission. And let's see, so their ascension is a very different path. Their coding is kind of different than ours. These dragons, for the most part, are extremely ancient. They're one of the most ancient beings as far as dragons go. I feel like the ones that were coming through that work with humans, for some reason, were not as old as these ones that were working with the planets. They're very elemental beings, so they even communicate and they even look much different than maybe your human dragon would have. The look, you know. Let me see. Oh, and then they're also very much in charge of different grids to ensure balance and protection. So that's what I got after reading magazine 1, is that these elemental beings, these dragons that work with Gaia, kind of are in protection and control. I don't want to say control mode, but basically they look at each grid, like the tree grid, the crystal grid, whatever it is, all the grids on Earth, and they kind of make sure that they're in balance. So that's kind of like their job as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is kind of similar to I think I wrote it as well, that there are dragons that are really here for the planet, And their goal is just to work with the planet. And they're like, yeah, the humans are here, but they're not going to be guiding us. They're not our guides. They are basically assisting Gaia. And then we have a whole different set of dragons, basically, that whose mission it is to really assist the humans that are here.
And they're much different.
Yeah. And I've encountered both kinds when I lived in Arizona, in very close to the Superstition Mountains, which is like this mountain that there's a bunch of legends and myths connected to the mountains. But then when I started to awaken to the dragon consciousness, I started noticing that there was something about the mountain. There was some energy that I like was attracted to. I'm like, okay, what is this energy? And I lived in a trailer back then, and I had already met my personal guide, my dragon. And so I was meditating, and I'm just connecting to this mountain. And I'm just looking out of my little trailer window, looking at the mountain. And suddenly I feel everything vibrating. And it's like the ground was vibrating, but it wasn't really physically vibrating, but it felt like it was happening physically, like it was actually happening. And I look at the mountain and I see this really brown dragon, like kind of going like this around this mountain. And I'm like, okay, the dragon introduced itself to me. And then I started when I was walking there, and I could feel its presence, and they're very protective of the land, is what I feel. And when I moved, because then I moved back in 2018, and I looked at the mountain, and I'm like, with tears in my eyes, like, oh no, I'm gonna miss you. And I could really feel this dragon saying, like, you'll be back. And this very, like, was what I felt was like it was a male. Yeah, it was a male. And he was like this very fatherly dragon figure of like, you'll be back, and don't worry, we will meet again, and you are always welcome here. Like, they are protecting parts of the land. And yeah, they're not really shy, I would say, but they don't really care for humans. They're not as much as the other type anyway.
Yeah, two things I want to bring up here too is dragons teach you how to set healthy boundaries. They really understand what it is, and they have a knowing of when you're ready for certain things, and they understand when you're kind of crossing the line. Or if, for instance, like in my meditation, if I feel any type of fear, or I feel like a entity is interfering, a person's interfering with my meditation, like their energy or something like that, my dragon makes it very clear that that this area is not to be messed with at this time. I mean, anytime, but really during this time. And you could especially see that during your meditations. I met my dragon not too long ago during a meditation. I actually didn't know her name for a long time. She has like a very dark feminine feeling to her, but she's not dark. She's unconditional love, but man, she's fierce. And so she kind of reminds me, she looks kind of like the ones off of, what's that dragon series with the girl with the white hair? I always forget it.
Game of Thrones.
The House of Dragons or something.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks very similar to her dragons, but I feel like her dragons are very skinny.
Yeah.
Like they don't get to eat very often.
They're very long.
They're really long. Okay, mine got some, grounding to her, So, but anyway, she's very fierce, and she's not like there's so many different types of dragons. There's like water dragons, there's light dragons, there's like elemental dragons. My dragon is very much so my soul is very much like the study of life. And at first she was breathing fire when she wanted to like basically protect me, but now she kind of breathes out like, I don't know if you ever seen that series Dragon Tales or something, where you like breathe out like magic or something, and it starts to turn the area into life around you, the colors and stuff. That is what she's doing now, but her name is Nali. And I looked that up yesterday, and try to figure out what that name is, and it's something about your inner soul or something like that. I forgot off the top of my head. I had too much happen since then, but anyways, and then the other thing I felt was really interesting too is I loved how specific when you talked about these families that got these really amazing dragons when they actually were a physical being in front of you, when they allowed that at the time, the dragons kind of allowed that to happen because we were at a different consciousness level. And these dragons, when they're being handed over to this person or something, and they're just babies, and these families are like, it's not like, oh my gosh, I got a new cat or dog. No, it's like the thrill and the excitement over, you know, like I said, with the DNA matching or something, it's like you're finding your old sister or brother or something.
Yeah, they're family members, like on a soul level. And then later, because I wrote that before I saw a chapter that actually is like the beginning of the whole thing, because I did a reading for my friend Chris, who channels dragons as well, and unicorns and mermaids. And she wanted more information on the dragons and her lifetime in Avalon with the dragons, and where I speak of that like monarchy, but it's not like we know monarchy. Was a spiritual monarchy that actually came from Atlantis. And what basically happened in Atlantis, the way I was shown, like everything was collapsing. There was like lava everywhere, tsunamis. It was just a cloud of ash, like smog. And out of this cloud of smog, like hundreds of dragons are just like flying up out of this cloud with a bunch of like people on their backs, and they're escaping. It's basically like this dragon exodus of Atlantis, and they were spreading out to all these different places. Like they went to Avalon, they went to Mount Shasta, they went to the Himalayas, Mount Atlas, everywhere, and their Mount Fuji, and their dragon hotspots basically, and they had to preserve this Christ consciousness. And apparently the people that were riding the dragons were connected to the Lyran bloodline. And because this Lyran bloodline is very connected to Christ consciousness, that like in our galaxy, Lyra is one of the oldest star systems where Christ consciousness was first established. And there's, this is what I've received, there's a stargate there through which the dragons came to Earth. And basically those families in the story that I wrote in Avalon, they were the descendants of these Lyran dragon riders from Atlantis. And that's why the match went so easily for these families. They were basically this monarchy, but they were like a spiritual monarchy that just had such a high frequency that also resonated in their physical bodies, so that these dragons who came from these original dragons that escaped Atlantis, they would be a perfect match for these families. And that is why the merging went so well, that they were such a good match together.
Oh, wow. That, I just love the way you explain that. It kind of, it puts in perspective, because when we see like on the television nowadays about monarchies and all that, it's very like power and death and control and stuff. And when you explain that the way you did, it felt very like it just was. That was their mission. That was who they are. They couldn't change who they are. They were walking upon this earth in a certain frequency that dragons match in their frequency. And there is other civilizations with different types of teams, you know, and stuff at that point and right now, for the people that are coming into remembrance, people that are going to resonate with this. It's just kind of like we're kind of in this dragon tribe thing right now, and there are different types of activations for different people and different tribes. So it's kind of like equal across the board, but when it comes to dragons, having that kind of unconditionally loving frequency match was just, the way you explained that was just so awesome. I loved it. So and then you also explained going into the cave and meeting your dragon.
And I found that to be a very beautiful metaphor for like facing your own fears in this lifetime. Because often when we walk this path, we choose to like embrace this whole spiritual journey. And that brings with it a bunch of shadow work, like you were saying earlier, like you have to face your own shadows. And somewhere this dragon is also a part of you. And if like you have to make sure that this frequency matches if you enter this cave. And that is also why I draw their eyes, because I didn't know for years I was drawing the dragon's eyes. And like people ask me, oh yeah, can I get a portrait of my dragon? And what would they do? They would like fly in front of me, and they would only show me their eye. They would show me the eye. And I'm like, yeah, but I would like to see like all of you. I want to draw this nice portrait. Yeah, but you only need this eye. That's all you need. They're going to get all the activations.
You just reminded me. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. When you said the eye like that, I was, oh my gosh. So last night, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. But when I had read all three of them, for some reason, I had a harder time opening the third one. I don't know why, technical difficulties. But when I was getting to read the third one, and before I actually went to a really big meditation, which I'll talk about in a minute, I noticed for the first time that my dragon's eye and my eye aligned with each other. And the dragon allowed me to look through its eye and its third eye to kind of see the world in the perspective that the dragon sees it. And let me tell you, everything, you could see everybody's like energy, the weird light code symbols that are around them, their auras, like you see everything when you match up your eye together. And obviously, like, I'm a very busy human right now with family life and everything, so I don't always have my focus on that. But when I kind of calm down and I reconnect to that, it was just like a whole nother way of seeing things. And then I was just like, I don't understand any of this, but like, what are those?
Whoa.
What are these now?
Well, I'm sure it's gonna explain itself, and you'll like receive more information on like why were you shown that. There must be a reason. I'm sure that it's interesting. It's going to reveal itself in more detail. But yeah, their eyes are apparently, that's what they were telling me anyway. That's where the activation is. And then it's when I saw that whole cave initiation thing, when I relived that moment, then I understood the whole thing. Because then my dragon, like I saw myself in this dark cave, and there's the shadow coming closer, and suddenly I see it's like my dragon. And his head is like, yeah, about a foot like taller than my height, where I'm standing in this experience. And so immediately there's this feeling of fear, but then afterwards in the story I'm like, oh, but this is my dragon, but you are gigantic. But then and then you have to choose like immediately to go to your heart and connect from your heart to their heart immediately. And that means, and that's a metaphor for in this life, when you feel fear, still go to your heart and open your heart and feel everything. And in this connection, in this moment, immediately you feel like you have this dragon as your protector, as your ally. And that's when you attune, like you're attuned to your dragon's energy in that moment. And then he said, because my dragon is a male dragon. And he said, well, it's this one, the blue one over there. That's mine. That's my husband's dragon. But she always wants to be in the picture. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's very, she's social, very extroverted. So mine is a little more introvert. It's funny how they have personalities, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So in this cave, now I lost.
You were in the cave, and then you were saying that you have to like kind of let go of that fear and get into your heart space. It was coming to you in a kind of a shadowy way. Go on.
Yeah. And then, so you realize like, okay, when you open your heart, that if you could do this, that's what he told me right away. Like, if you could do this in a past life, you could face this fear right here, then you can do anything. If you, like in this lifetime, we don't have these big physical threats. We don't have like wars the way we used to have wars with millions of soldiers like fighting on the battlefield. We still have wars, but they're very mental wars a lot of the time, and political wars and stuff like that. And the dragons are saying these things are still going on, but we are, well, fighting. We're just navigating this world in different ways, in subtler ways, and we are still here to offer our assistance, but you have to completely open up to us. It's like they want us to fully open up. They say we can only help you as far as you are willing to let us in, as
Right.
far as you're willing to open up to us. And if you do that, if you trust that we are going to be there, like after you step into that cave in that moment, and it's like, okay, I trust you. I'm here. I'm this tiny human and you're a gigantic dragon. We're in a cave all alone. There's nobody here. You could just eat me or whatever. But, and like when you say, I trust you with my life, and then they're going to also say, I trust you with my life. Because the dragon people think, okay, yeah, there is this really big dragon, but they are also scared. And they have to completely open their heart to you. And humans can be very impulsive. You don't know what they're going to do. So they have to open their heart and love you unconditionally. And when you do the same, then you have this bond and you amplify this energy. And together you can do so much more than on your own. And that's why they came back to assist us. Of course, they're not physical and we can't see them. And it would be really cool if all of a sudden they would come flying through the skies. And that would be super cool to witness that one day. Who knows? But we can work with them still.
Well, what I will say to that is going back in your perspective on how it felt kind of meeting your dragon, just from your perspective, if anybody's ever went hiking and sit on top of a mountain, it kind of reminds you, it turns down your ego. You get to see all of the lands and everything. Yes, you're standing on top of the world kind of feeling, but at the same time, it really humbles you. So when you're meeting your dragon, after that fear kind of, moves through you and everything, and you're kind of in that accepting of, yes, I'm really willing to work with you. The dragon has a way of humbling you in a sense, kind of the same way you would feel standing on top of these huge volcanoes or mountains during a really nice hike. So if you ever had that type of feeling, even of being somewhere ancient or something like that, that is a very similar emotion to go through as you're meeting them and as you're working with them. My dragon kind of came in through a meditation, and I'm not gonna lie, she came in really fierce. I mean, it was not an easy introduction. I feel like your introduction was
well, that was not really the introduction. That was just a few months ago. It was this moment that I relived, but I'll like tell you the whole story in a little bit. Yeah.
She came in through my meditation and she was fierce. Okay. And I was like, anytime that I've had to deal with this life with a lot of fear, I've had a lot of near-death experiences, and I've had very traumatic stuff happen to my body. So my ego is kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Always. That's the first thing it goes to, like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm unsafe right now, And through mentoring with people and just me, myself, I gotten to the point where now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm grounded. I'm not going to die, brain. This is just temporary, something I'm going through, like an activation I'm going through. This is not, I mean, it's real, but it's not like what you're perceiving it as. It's not the same. You're not understanding what's going on here, But when she came in, it was kind of like, what actually reminded me who she was is when I was a child going through some of the worst abuse that I had ever experienced in my life. I had drew this gorgeous dragon. Okay. And I'm not really a drawer. I did a little bit of drawing when I was little, but for some reason, this picture of this dragon came out perfect. And it was like this dragon, kind of I explained to you earlier, kind of bulky, big black dragon, like wrapped around me. And I was just this girl. I wasn't the little girl the age that I was this grown woman with this long blonde hair, standing right next to my dragon with my hand on this dragon. That's what came up in my head. And I think it was like 8 or something when I drew that. And I can't find it anymore. I really wish I could. But anyways, what I was drawing was like what I perceive as my higher self, especially at that time. Your higher self kind of changes, which I mean, I could, that's for a different video, but what I was perceiving myself as my higher self at the time is what I had drew myself in the future and with my dragon. So that's what also came to my head. And I was like, but still that fear through my body, how you explained, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. But then after that passed, it's different. And now when I go into my meditation, she's very protective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, that story was a few months ago where I was back in that moment. It was kind of like a time travel moment. But the first time I actually met my dragon was also in Arizona when I was living in my trailer. I had just had a spiritual reawakening because I was always psychic as a child, but then I kind of numbed it down, wanted to be normal. So then when I was about 30, 31, I was in my trailer and I was doing an Avalon meditation that I had purchased off of somebody online, like a 45-minute meditation. And for some reason, I'm like, okay, Avalon, let's try it out. I'm like, this is going to be nice. This is going to be relaxing. And I'm doing the meditation. She's talking about you're in this field and there's a breeze and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm flying and I look down and there's this sound and I see this dark blue, like metallic blue dragon. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? Who are you? Where am I? What is going on? Why are you in my meditation? And he's not saying anything. He's just like flying, not saying, but I felt really at ease.
Yeah.
And then he like lands, puts me on the ground, and he's just like super nice to me, not really speaking still. And then I just continue with the meditation and I open my eyes and I'm like, well, that was interesting. And then I think a day or two later, I meditate again, but I'm not really doing a guided meditation. I'm just kind of focusing, going within, and I'm on my bed. And suddenly I see these wings around me and I'm in a cocoon of wings, like an egg almost, but it was dragon wings. And I saw these wings wrapping around me and I felt this light, this feeling of love, like being in a womb. And that's when I suddenly saw my dragon and I felt this love and this protective cocoon that he was putting. But I was going through a very tough time. I was in a very abusive relationship. I was about to leave. And I was very stressed and planning basically how to get out of the relationship with my then 3-year-old daughter. And I was just scared and I was really terrified every day.
Right.
And so this dragon came through and said, my name is Aurelius, he said, and I am your guide and I'm protecting you. And I'm just feeling super calm and I feel everything just melting away. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then I started looking up like dragon stuff, like spiritual meanings of dragons in different cultures and all this stuff. And yeah, I started meditating with him more and more. And that's when I drew this eye, because he said, draw my eye and just look at it every day. And that's all you have to do. And I will tell you everything you need to know will come through the eye. And I will just give you all the information. I'm like, okay. So, but that's also the reason I feel why the church has demonized dragons, or like the Middle Ages, the knights that are slaying the dragons, because they are actually very connected to the true Christ teachings.
Yes.
That have, of course, been completely changed by the Roman Church. So the dragons are actually the allies of the true Christian teachings, the true Gnostic teachings of Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Jesus, the true mystical Jesus, that is.
I'm getting all goosebumps because I told you this over email or whatever, Facebook, is that my team, I call it my team just to make things easier for me.
Yeah.
It's like mainly Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, but prominently the women. And it goes back to like the Isis teaching and Hathor, like it's very ancient. That's something that really awakened that for me was the book Sophia Code. But before I had read that book, there was a guy that actually bought some bison meat from. I don't know why. It was just the weirdest thing, but I was really attracted to him and he was selling bison meat and I was like, sure, I'll buy some. really weird. But he was actually an actor in a I don't know what is it called. It's a new series that's out. It's a whole that has like Jesus, a perspective of Mary Magdalene. Obviously, it doesn't give the perspective of like her being Jesus's partner or anything, but it did give a better perspective of her and how she went through like traumas and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously, it was a little different. I've read a lot about Mary Magdalene on the side and her daughter Sarah, and kind of like the teachings, like ancient teachings that these women went through in Egypt to be able to kind of match their counterpart partners, or these big souls that were coming in, to be able to help each other ascend and get the job done. And they would work together. So it was like an equal, definitely you could see in the last few hundred years how the masculine, the dark masculine, because there's yin and yang for both feminine and masculine. You could see the dark masculine kind of like coming through and kind of giving the feminine kind of a like a not trusting, very we don't know what's happening, kind of, especially when it came to magic with like intercourse and all that stuff. It was very demonized. So but that's all of that's kind of wrapped together with the dragon consciousness, kundalini, and all of that. It's all like kind of together, and it's like the big missing piece to a lot of the people that are questioning, you know, nowadays, of what, you know, where these dragons come from, or what are you talking about, this Christ consciousness with the dragons and stuff? Because I live in the what is it, the Bible Belt, so I had to have a lot of inner like strength posting stuff about Christ dragons, you know, and the judgment that comes with that, because people now are stepping forward like, hey, this is a real thing. Like, we got to bring back these little teachings, because these dragons are amazing, you know. But I also had a question aside from that. So each one of us has, I'm assuming at this point, you probably have some form of etheric wings. So I have like 2 or 3 pairs. Honestly, I'm kind of like on the edge of if the second pair just changed, or if I have a 3rd pair now. And kind of wanted to know your thoughts on, so there's dragon wings, and I understand my second pair of wings look a lot like my dragon's wings. And I kind of have a question is, like, you use these wings, and even angels, and you look at angels and they have wings on them, and it kind of helps you through ascending through these different realms that your human body may not be, we're not equipped right now physically to experience, but our energetic body is. So we're given these etheric wings as tools. So when you're riding your dragon, and you're visiting these different realms, or whatever you want to call them, can you like in a way activate these etheric wings along with your dragon while you're riding your dragon, to kind of like kind of boost y'all up into like a higher frequency or something, I guess, if you want to say? I don't know how else to explain. It's kind of a weird question.
Yeah, but that's actually a very interesting question. And what I have not really seen that yet, because when I'm in my meditation with my dragon, I kind of look at it from my eyes, and I see my dragon. I'm aware of my dragon, but I'm not really aware of me and what I look like. So I haven't really paid attention to that. But I have seen myself when I do, like, I meditate with just my higher self, and I try to connect to my higher self. Because last summer I had this whole remembrance, this very dramatic experience actually, where I remembered my angelic origin. I wrote a story about it on my website as well, and on my blog, where I basically went all the way back to the beginning. But I had a near-death experience last summer where I stopped breathing for about a minute. And I completely stopped breathing, and my husband said, "You were gone. You were completely gone." And I don't remember any of it. And I completely went up to this golden light. And basically I saw that I was a seraphim angel, that I was basically one of the seraphim originally. And I decided to come down here like super long ago and start, well, not here, in a bunch of other star systems, and ultimately here on Earth. And that my dragon was also originally from the seraphim realm, but that he was a dragon, and that they matched the energy, like you said, that we were both of this seraphim energy. And
Right.
that's why now we work together, and we have worked together. And the way I was shown is like you can be from any part of source energy. There's pure elemental souls that are incarnated here that are like pure gnomes or mermaids or whatever. And I've seen that they have dragons that are like pure earth dragons that match that. They're like one energy kind of. It's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna just make a really silly comparison. Like you have a banana, and then you have like a banana ice cream, you have banana milkshake. It's all like the banana family. So they go together. And then you have like somebody that is like a broccoli, and then you have like a broccoli soup and whatever. It's like all going well together. It's from the same origin, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you, during your meditation, another question, I guess, something that I have, it seems to me that you're really good with Akashic records, very aware of like past life, probably really good at reading other people's like past lives and events. What I'm very good about is astral projecting outside my body, even when I'm awake, and something with that I've had a really hard time like allowing that skill to come forward because of the ungroundingness that comes with that. It's very terrifying. But near-death experiences kind of helped, chronic problems or whatever, that kind of all put in perspective. As soon as I let go of my fear, I kind of really gained access to this skill. So what I've been doing during my meditations is I have been kind of studying my dragon. I will like kind of sit down with her or stand, it depends on the position. And I will kind of feel like I will literally close my eyes and I will feel on her like face, around her nose, and kind of like near her eyes and maybe around her teeth. And I noticed when I got around her teeth that like I had a fear of her biting me. I was like, "Ooh, that's an interesting little shadow work that I have to work on." And then, but just like understanding her texture and like becoming one with that, and you literally can start feeling it on your hands. Like it is, your brain is literally like, if you go grab a leaf outside, it's like you're literally holding this leaf, exception of it's not your physical body's not doing it. It's all your etheric or your higher self doing this. And I feel how like I have opened that senses up to be able to feel in the other realms. And I was like, this is the most incredible. So that when I'm very stressed and, you know, I've had children screaming at me all day, or, you know, life's just hectic, I kind of just sit down with my dragon, like if I'm in my bathtub for a few minutes, and I just like, I literally takes your inner child for you to pretend you're sitting down with your dragon and you're like, what does this dragon feel like? And then all of a sudden that texture will come to you. And the first thing that's going to come to your mind is doubt. Nah, this is not real and all that. And it's like, you have to be like you are a child. There is no doubt in your head when you're a child. You just kind of go for it and experience it. And whatever happens, happens, you know? And so really opening that inner child really helps experience this dragon realm as well. So that's something I wanted to add in there as well.
Yeah, because that's basically what it is. As a child, when we are young, we don't have this programming yet. We haven't received this programming of, oh, you are imagining things, you're lying, you're making things up. You're just open and you're just experiencing all of these multidimensional realities. And because they're non-physical, you just experience them in different ways, but the adults around you, they've already switched off all of these layers. These other realms, they can't access those anymore. So because they can't see any of it, they're going to be like, oh, you're imagining something.
Yeah,
you have
my parents or my mom was very like, you're right here, you're right now. Like, I don't know what you're saying, you're making it up. Like, that's kind of like, she was very like, well, I guess my line of women are like, doesn't really understand that feminine empathy. And it's like, I definitely came here to break that, as I also have 2 daughters myself. So anytime my daughters, because interestingly enough, when I looked through the eye of the dragon, I saw both of my daughters' dragons, and they're kind of weighing around. Obviously, they have no clue about them yet, or maybe they do, you know, and they don't really know how to communicate it. But anyways, it's just when my daughter points out something, even if I'm busy, I'll just be like, "Oh wow, that's great! Like, look at that," and then like make sure that she knows that I'm like paying attention, like. She discovered this truck or something. Like, I will name it and kind of resonate with her, because I'm waiting for her to get to a point where she starts talking about these, you know, her dragon and these other things. And so that way she knows that, you know, oh wow, well, there is somebody else on this planet, like my mom, that I really trust, that sees them too. And I think that's really important for us, even if you're not a parent, or you are a light worker, if you have contact with children and whatnot, and you have the ability to speak up in this type of way, to be able to communicate like what they're seeing and stuff, because it really will accelerate their inner child healing. Like, they'll have less to do when they're older, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I can tell now. My daughter is 8. She's gonna turn 9 this year, and like everybody is always blown away when they hear the stuff that she's able to do. And to me, it's just, I didn't have to do anything special. All I had to do was validate her experiences, and just that's all I had to do. And now she's automatic writing. She sees and talks to her dragon. She can bilocate on command. Basically, she says, "Oh, I can just meditate and I decide where I go, and I can like decide everything. I thought everybody could do this." I'm like, no, not everybody can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And if you want to go a step further, you know, I read my kids a lot of magical books and stuff when I can. I mean, obviously, their attention span is not very, very far right now, because they're very young. So, anyways, but my point is literally the minimum thing you have to do for your children is just validate what they're saying or what they're feeling. Literally, that's all you have to do. Anything else is just like you're going the extra mile. Literally.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
They're going to be confident in what they are receiving and seeing. And she did have a period where she was like 2.5, I think, where she started having night terrors, those horrible nightmares where they're like standing up and like sitting up with their eyes open, and you're like, what is happening? But they're asleep, but they're screaming. And I was getting, but we were going through a very rough time with my ex, and there was just a lot of like dense energy, and she's super sensitive. And I was working with Archangel Michael at the time. Well, I still work with him every day, but then I started really working with him, and we created this little angel prayer, like super simple prayer, like, "Archangel Michael, please, thank you for staying with me in my sleep and protecting me in my bedroom. Thank you," or something easy that she could say. And she said, "Okay, well, he's here now, and he has a sword." And then the next day she'll tell me, like, there was something that tried to come in and he slayed it with his sword, and then I was able to go back to sleep. And then she didn't have any more nightmares.
That's so, I love that. My kids, my daughters, my oldest daughter, my youngest is too young to really, I mean, she just sleeps. She's good. But my oldest daughter, she's about that 2, almost 3 years old. And she wakes up sometimes too and stuff, but she's so fierce. Like, literally, she'll wake up in the middle of the night and just start roaring at things. We go to the store, she's roaring at people because she thinks she's a dinosaur. And I'm trying to really, like, if you love dinosaurs, this is kind of getting close to your dragon thing. I'm going to flow with it, you know? So I kind of let her be. But speaking of kind of like that dark stuff, the last thing that I kind of like channeled with some of your messages that you had channeled, transmissions that came through for you. If at any point, this kind of comes with that boundary setting thing that they do, you decide to make decisions that are in which your soul would be controlled, contained, or used out of your personal will. So this is not a fear-based thing. This just is. If you decide to join a group that its will is very not with unconditional love, very controlling. I really don't think I really have to go further with what I'm trying to say here. your dragon has a right to cancel contracts with you. It has a right to back away from that and be like, this is not what I signed up for mission wise. And because everybody has free will, if you choose to go a different way. And the thing is, I want to explain to everybody, to take the fear right out of here, is the universe does not see good or bad. That is a very human thing. There just is. The darkness is just lessons, and it kind of lets you reflect, like, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that again because that kind of sucked. Or, that's kind of how I see darkness, and it's kind of a reflection of what humanity needs to work on, and things that may not resonate with us, so we know. And that's just also a way universe is growing and learning. Consciousness is growing itself. Has the right to cancel contract with you if it chooses to do so. And I say contract, but it's really more complex than contract. And be rematched with the soul with a potential match. So even though this dragon was created for you and it has very, very similar light codes to you, this dragon has the option to wait for another soul that has similar coding to come forward. And this could take a very, very long time, or it could take the next life that comes through, but it has the option to do so. But it's not very common. Usually your dragon is like your dragon, but it is also a choice that they can make. This could take a while. If the dragon stays, so your dragon also can decide to stay and experience through you what you're experiencing with this control and everything. Because at the end of the day, it's your soul, your essence. I don't believe anybody can take that away from you, no matter what you hear. It's just an experience that you will experience that may be unpleasant. So they can stay with you and choose to feel this dark experience with you, so that way they can kind of gain some type of dark side of ascension. But they will continue to move on with ascension, no matter if your soul decides that it wants to stay in that realm of unpleasantness, or if it wants to move on from that. Dragons are specifically made for you, but they also require your soul to have maturity to choose unconditional love. They will also only be revealed if the soul is ready. For humans to be ready, it could take a few lifetimes, or it could take just one. Even though you could have had past lives with, this dragon, or even be on other planets with this dragon, you may come back as human, and because the consciousness could be so dense here, it may take a few lives for this human body and for your subconscious to kind of be mature enough to be like, oh wow, we can astral project, and then we could also see dragons now. That's cool. Oh yeah, hey friends. That's like what I mean by that. And then so each life, though, no matter how you come about this, like if you're from another planet and then you come here and it takes you a few lives, no matter what, there will always be some type of reminder. Even if you're not ready that life, you may see something with the dragon on it and you're like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. Or you may be really into it, or it will cross your mind at some point. So it's kind of a reminder, like, hey, we're here, but when you're ready. So that's the last thing that came through for me when we talk about kind of that dark stuff. But it's just kind of, I guess, what other than the soul DNA stuff that wanted to come through, I really guess what wanted to come through is that boundary and that free will. Is like they have their own thing going on with that.
Yeah, but that is interesting, because a few weeks ago, I saw the higher self of somebody that I was attuning to, but they are going through a very tough time and are actually kind of cut off from their higher self. So I was connecting to the higher self, and the higher self is like, they're making some bad choices basically. And there's nothing, like, they're not listening to me. And this big dragon was standing behind this higher self. And you could see the dragon was there. And I was there with my dragon. And the dragon was like, I'm still here, but they're not asking me for help. So I'm just observing, and I'm just going to stay and observe. But I'm not intervening, because this is not my place. It's not my place right now, because they're making choices that I don't agree with. So like, exactly like you said, they can, if they see like, this is not gonna be, they're not gonna change, then the dragon has the right to just say, then I'm going to go and see where my assistance is needed, where I can be of service, where I can help. And because if this person isn't going to do anything, then the dragon is just basically suffering from witnessing how this person is completely cut off from the higher self and from the dragon and all of their spirit guides.
Mhm. And it's not something that couldn't be called back in the future. It just would be very different at that point if that dragon decided to take up other responsibilities. I don't know what that looks like, as I've never experienced that, but that's just what was coming through to me. And I just wanted to let everybody know that it's very much, I will say privilege, even though it's kind of a triggering word for some people. It's very much a privilege to work with these beings, and with everything as a human, whether you're building a business, working on having a family, working on your ascension, whatever it is, working on a relationship, it does take that 5% effort in your conscious choice to do these things. If you're a person that I'm not going to say like wasting their life, but just kind of like not having the intentions of ascending this life, even though you have the capability with your body and your soul essence, but you're in this huge avoidance, and you're to the point where you've just decided this life is just not for you. That dragon 100% can be like, hey, I'm going to experience this with you because I want to understand what it feels like from a human perspective to suffer, or whatever it is, suffer and avoidance or whatever, because I'm not human and I don't know. But at the same time, they could be like, I don't have time for this. Like I'm on my ascension game right now. And I will say a lot of the more ancient dragons, they don't have time to be playing around.
Mm-hmm.
That like if you're a very high frequency being, you get this very high frequency dragon, they're not playing around. They're like,
No.
this is what we need done. We're going to protect you. We love you. Spend time with us. We'll be patient with you. But if you at any point decide that you do not want to work with us, or you know, you're choosing choices that are not of unconditional love, and this has to be pretty detrimental choices. It's not like, oh, you lied to someone once or something. They'll probably look at you like, what the hell are you doing? You know, but that's it. But it's more like really serious stuff, and you're just not moving along to help Earth's ascension. Then they're just kind of like, okay, well, you know, we're gonna go over here. And, you know, if something comes along where I could do other things in the meantime, you know, until you're ready, or they may completely just say, you know, universe, God, creator, or, you know, these ancient dragons that they kind of like report to, or, you know, like whoever they work with, their guidance, they will be like, this, we got to kind of rewrite this contract because this is not working. She's not into this. He's not into this. So I got to make sure that my soul's doing what it needs to do. So.
Yeah, I can definitely tell with my guide, like he came in at this point where I was ready to remember basically why I was here. And he came in and it was clear from the beginning that he was like, yeah, but we're here for a mission. We're not going to be playing around, but in a very loving way, like very loving. But like, I'm here because we have work to do. And remember why you're here. You are important. You're doing important work. And I am here. Let's do this. Let's do this together. But you have to face these fears. You're going to go through shadows. You're going to go through stuff. And you're going to have to look at yourself. But you don't have to do it alone. And if you're going to go for it, I'm going to go for it with you. But then you have to say yes. And that's what they're waiting for. You don't have to like say it out loud, but they want to feel that your soul is saying, yes, I don't know what's ahead of me. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like if you're in this world and you realize that you're here on this spiritual mission and that you have this dragon guide and you're like, okay, I'm going to trust that I am supported, that I have this guidance system, that I'm not doing it on my own, and you're just going to do it. That's what they need to hear. Just like, okay, you're just doing it you're just surrendering control, basically.
Absolutely. And with all your guidance, really, I just want to put it out there is that there's not any judgments. The judgment that you're experiencing is actually your own subconscious, because evolution for each species looks very different. And for us, it requires us, the way it is kind of make dumb decisions before we actually can learn some things. I call it dumb, but like really challenging decisions sometimes. Experiences that we have to go through before we realize like, hey, like this doesn't work and stuff. So there's not really judgment. I mean, you could be as silly as you want. You can be as, serious as you want. What all that matters is like that little 5% effort that you're making, even if that means like you're a very busy person, you're walking about outside, you have 5 minutes to look at the park, when you're on break or something at work, and you're like thinking in your head because they're telepathic. You don't have to speak out loud and feel like you're being judged. Basically, you could just kind of telepathically say like, hey dragon, I'm here with you now, I just want to let you know I'm checking in with you. Just the human experience is a lot right now, but I'm here with you, or something like here and there. The dragons really love that reassurance. But I will say something else that's coming to me right now, and I don't really know why, but when I want to tell you yesterday about my experience, I'll make it kind of quick here, but after I had read your transmissions that came through, I was having huge activations within myself. And I went to meditate. And for me, what that looks like is taking a bath with all the elements, fire, water, whatever, earth, air. And for me, it kind of like, when you ride your dragon, it's a very grounding experience. So you would think that it would feel like kind of how it feels like having an out of body experience or like an astral projection ungrounding, but it's actually quite opposite. It feels like you're like extremely grounded. And the only other time I've ever felt like that, but haven't been able to sustain myself, is like when I ground myself to Gaia. But I feel like when I ground myself to Gaia, I really pick up a lot of energies sometimes that are unwanted during my meditation. So grounding to my dragon was a whole nother realm of peace when riding the dragon.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, you're right, because it feels very safe, and I feel not very much like in my crown. Like when I'm meditating with angels, it's just all here and I have no body awareness at all. But when I'm meditating with my dragon, or that moment in that cave, or like any meditation where I consciously call upon my dragon, it's like everything comes back, like is being compressed into a ball of like your center. You're not just floating in your, it's kind of
it's kind of like it's
hard to explain.
It's kind of like it charges your root what is it, chakra. It really charges you in that area, and it kind of gives you that very secure comfort. It's in the bond that you share in that moment. It's kind of like when you're in the mother's womb and it's just you and mom. You can't really hear anything else. Like you can maybe hear mumbling outside of you, but it's just you and mom. It's kind of how you feel with riding your dragon. It's just you and dragon, and whatever your dragon's personality like and y'all's, it's very intertwined. Y'all are made for each other. It's very grounding. She charges me very much in the ways that I need, because my lower chakras, and a lot of people on planet Earth right now are working on their lower chakras. It kind of gave energy to the places that were, because of the shadow work and trauma I was holding or am holding, kind of the energy wasn't running as good in that area. She kind of was able to kind of charge that. And something else that I really want to implement when meeting your dragon and something like that, if you want to kind of, before you start riding your dragon, all that, something that I feel is really helpful is imagining a gold ball coming in from the earth, the middle of the earth, up through your body, from like your toes to your legs to your abdomen, up into your heart space. And you're kind of like holding this ball into your heart space. It kind of gives that, because Gaia is a huge heart-based planet of unconditional love, and she's kind of able to provide that energy for you to hold, for you to be able to understand and experience, so that way you could kind of gain access to what you need to get done. I don't know how else to put it. So basically, if you kind of hold that, you could kind of invite in your guidance a little bit easier. It kind of just makes the transition a little easier, because that focus, you're real focused on that and what's going on. So that's something I also use sometimes too. But when I was in this meditation, I flew with my dragon to this beautiful golden city. I don't even know. I maybe have saw it in one other meditation before. Beautiful golden city. I'm not gonna lie. When I went to land, I kind of fell off my dragon because I am not super experienced with riding dragons. Okay, so like I literally fell off my dragon, and I was like, okay, I'm here. Okay, we're here. You know, and so the dragon just kind of stayed, you know, behind me or whatever. And I like walked into this like, you know, huge castle golden thing. And there was like these ancient dragons all around me in this circle. I mean, it literally went from like in front of it to like now I'm inside. And then it just, time was so fast there, but yet they felt so slow. It felt like they were moving at like speed, you know, very, very slow, but it was so fast. Anyways, they were surrounding me, and I was standing in this circle, and I was barefoot, and I could feel the symbols on this stone ground that was like ingrained into the ground. And what they did was they molted fire all together around me, which then created a liquid gold that went into these engravings up through my feet, and then through my legs, and then actually through my veins. And during this meditation, I'm not going to lie, I don't really like to say that meditations hurt, but when you're kind of processing that pain of, you know, your traumas or whatever, sometimes that it could feel like pain, but really it's those emotions coming up. And I'm not a person that cries or anything like that very often. I have a hard time releasing emotions. So when they come up, they kind of hurt, you know? So it literally felt like it was burning me in a sense. But it was really interesting. And then I just kind of circulated throughout my whole body. And then they were like kind of like using their tails to make like a rhythm of a beat, like a drum or something like that. And then it was like also like the air whooshing kind of sounds on top of it. So it was like this rhythmic like beat thing going on too. Like it was like a whole thing happening. Yeah, and then finally they kind of cleansed me a little bit from whatever it is that I need to be cleansed from, and I was able to ride my dragon back. But I was just like, this is so fascinating. The elder that was like kind of talking to me, I mean, when I say he was old, he was super like, he looked like basically a rock. Okay, he looked like rock body, like he was old, and he was like talking to me like in like a very ancient language. Somehow I kind of understood that what he was doing, and that he just said that the purpose is big for me to bring forward some of these messages, and but you know we got to kind of clean up some stuff around here is basically what he said. So that was after I had read your 3 magazines. So yeah. I was like, maybe we should probably cut this video into like halves just in case the activations are too much for people. Because I read all 3 of those and I was like, whoa, like this is like some serious activation right here. So, but the articles you wrote were just beautiful. It really did give me a lot of perspective and resonate with me quite on a deep level. So
yeah, I do feel like there's going to be more. For now, they've told me this is it for now, because this is going to be a lot to digest for people. This is like the Avalon chapter. But then they said we're going to elaborate on the Atlantean chapter. They want to elaborate on different aspects, and also the different types of dragons, like the ones that are assisting the humans, but also the ones that are assisting the earth, and how we can help them, basically. So
no, I definitely had a feeling. Yeah, I definitely had a feeling myself that this was just the start to things. They're giving everybody little pieces right now so we can all come together and work together and give pieces. I feel like I have a few other people that when they are ready, kind of give me other pieces of the picture. But I would totally love doing another podcast with you soon, whenever soon is. You know, I mean, there's not really a set date because it depends on activations and what we experience more on these dragons. And there's so many different subjects with them, like elemental dragons, human dragons, you know, soul, dark night of the soul work. I mean, there's so many different like subjects we could kind of hit on with this. And
Yeah, and even the dragon connection with the Essenes, the mystery school that Jesus was a member of, like we could go on and on about just Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary.
Oh yes. And
And all
when
of
you
these.
wrote that, I'm just like, Mary Magdalene has a way of finding me all my Mary Magdalene sisters, don't they?
Yeah,
Really
and in the magazine, there's even, well, in the second and third magazine, there is a chapter, the channel by Sarah, the daughter of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. She's in there, and because I have a course, a video course, and it's called Essene Teachings for the Modern Day Mystic, and it's all about the Essenes and the Gnostic Gospels and the teachings, the original Christ teachings, and the feminine Christ that was basically erased from the traditional Bible.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the dragons, and I was always like, how do I have so many different interests? But now they're all coming together, like Jesus, dragons, it's all connected. Atlantis, it's all connected.
It is. And I felt a lot like that recently too. I'm like, I have so many interests that are like pulling me different ways, and I'm feeling very overwhelmed. But yesterday, actually, after I had read your magazine and whatnot, because I had just got done with, how I had presented earlier, teaching people how to channel, because I kind of want to start like real basic, because I feel like a lot of these psychics are like way up here, and people are like when I started, my awakening was quite a bit ago, like 2017 or something. I mean, I feel like that's been a long time, but I didn't know what was what, and everything was freaking me out and everything.
Yeah.
So I like kind of reminded myself to go back to that level of basic stuff. And how a teacher usually does, they spend all these years trying to figure everything out. But for the people that, take my course or whatnot, they automatically will be activated at an accelerated rate versus spending years. Oh, it may take them a few months just to figure it out. So it's definitely something that what came up was Dragon Code. And I feel like there's way more that's going to come out of this that I'm really interested. I feel like it's going to be like this whole like program for people, not only for you, but I feel like something's coming up for me with that. But yeah, all that came up was Dragon Code, and I was like, this is so interesting. I wonder what that means. So, but anyways, I'm super fascinated with what you do with the Akashic Records, and obviously the Mary Magdalene thing. I definitely like to maybe at some point set up a time where you can kind of do maybe a reading about that or whatever comes up for you.
Yeah,
because there's a missing piece there too.
I can feel that there's like a strong Christ energy about you. There's definitely connections with past lives, with Mary Magdalene, with Egypt, with like Isis, all of these, because of course Mary Magdalene studied under the Isis lineage in Egypt. Have you read, I was going to ask you that yesterday, have you read the Anna Grandmother of Jesus books?
I don't think I've read that one. I've read a few things, but I don't think I've got to that one yet. No.
Yeah, if you feel like the Sophia Code has been so transformative for you, then you're definitely gonna love Anna, Grandmother of Jesus. It talks about like the feminine people behind Jesus, like all the teachers that he's had, Mary Magdalene, her training in Egypt, the grandmother Anna, and how she's basically this grand priestess of the whole Essene community, and Mother Mary, how she was basically this priestess, she was trained in all kinds of alchemical esoteric wisdom.
Yeah,
so you're gonna love that book.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up, because I am stunned at the fact of how many high priests have been out of any text of history whatsoever. It's like only like we have a lot of these priest teachings and all this unconditional love from the male aspect, but all these high priestess, and the high priestess, not that male or women are any better than one another, but the high priestess women have, I feel, a little bit different connection to the different realms than the masculine does. The masculine to me is very grounding, and they do a little bit, in my perspective, they do a little bit better in the human experience. They're very grounding. They're very they're better at being human, I think, sometimes than women are. You know, women also go through a little bit more trivial things with bodies and whatnot too, to give a different perspective. So it just stuns me that we're like, you know, walking around just with this male perspective. So I would totally love looking into that book. I really appreciate it. You'll have to send me a text because I'm terrible at remembering things. I'll send me like a little message about that.
Yeah, when you have kids, and especially young kids, then I was the same way. I was like, okay, I have to write this down because like in 5 minutes it's going to be out of my brain forever. So I completely understand. I feel like I'm only now getting out of that brain fog state that you have, like for the first couple of years. But yeah, and also doing this work, of course, we are very much in our head, and it's easy to forget earthly matters.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe do a podcast too on what is it? I was making a TikTok earlier this week about the dark night of the soul with motherhood. Kind of give a perspective of I don't want to say darkness, but the challenges that come with motherhood from a spiritual perspective. I think that would be really popular for the women. And since we are women, that would be great.
And that's something that actually came through from Mother Mary a few years ago, that she said these challenges, these obstacles are your mystery school initiations. They're basically your initiations, but now you don't have to like do all these physical tests or these hard tests in these temples and in these pyramids. You don't have to do it this way anymore. Now you have to completely overwrite old belief systems. You have to look at your shadows, you have to look at your fears, and that's going to be your big test.
However, I will say that a lot of us are bringing forward new ways of doing this mystery schools. I feel like this whole movement towards homeschooling their children, not that I'm for or against, because I think pros and cons to both. This huge movement with homeschooling children and everything, though, I will say on a spiritual aspect, it's like the starting of recreating that mystery school, because it has a more of a wild and free type of, this is my soul individuality of skill versus everybody should do it like this.
Yeah.
Way. It's just a huge movement that's happening. So I do also see in the future, I don't know if it'll be completely in our lifetime, I think it'll start in our lifetime, of this huge movement back into having kids in mystery schools or classes or something too. So I just want to throw that in there as a little, like, I guess, future insight or something.
Yeah, but that is true. More people are starting to see that traditional educational system just doesn't work for these new earth. Yeah, for these new children, it doesn't work. Like when I look at my daughter, she's distracted and she's actually super smart, but she's homeschooled now. She's unschooled actually, but because we've also been traveling for the last year and a half. So she's been out of school, but she is now speaking 3 languages. She can read in 3 languages. And she's learning about different cultures just from being around different people. And she's learning because we lived on a farm for a couple of months. And she was learning from the different adults on the farm. She was learning about gardening. She's learning about taking care of animals. And all these other people, they all had their own approach to how they did things. So I think that's really valuable for children to see how different adults do things differently.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. That open perspective, even when it comes to dragons, even when it comes to learning anything new, just having an open perspective of what other people, even if you don't agree with it, it's like, don't fight it. Don't don't like put yourself up against it. Kind of just receive it, take what resonates, and just move on. Just move on. That's it.
Yeah. And if you're confident in what you choose, if you're confident in the life choices that you've made, then let them do their thing and you go do your thing that you are confident about anyway. So what does it matter what they're doing?
Yeah. So whatever you choose, it's just implementing that 5% and that validation as parents, and then also even within your own spirituality and ascension is, I guess, what you could also take away here, along with boundaries and dragon codes and all the dragon stuff. So
yeah. Well, this has been super interesting. It's getting kind of late here, and I really have to go to the bathroom. And then maybe you have a little bit of time before your children wake up to take a few breaths in and out and connect with your dragon.
I appreciate your time. I really do. I really enjoyed our meeting, and I really hope we could have another one soon.
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation, and yeah, getting these different insights from like what you've experienced. It's been really interesting talking about this, and we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon and have a great day. Bye bye.